Morning, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us for our bi-weekly St. Albans Today for the Record Show. Happy to have you on board. If you're watching us live, well, you know it's a live show. And we take phone calls, 528-5315, if you feel so inspired. Very happy to have on board this morning St. Albans' Interim Police Chief, Maurice Lamothe. Chief, good to see you. Thanks for the time.
Good morning.
And we're expecting Brendan Deso, the Select Board Chair from St. Albans Town, and I suspect Brendan may slide in at some point. And St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith will probably be back with us in another couple of weeks. Chief, you're a native son, St. Albans native or St. Albans area native?
That is correct.
Really interesting. Give us a little background for folks that know I interviewed you, Gary Taylor, and Bob Norris some years ago, but for folks who aren't used to seeing you on local airwaves here, give us a little background on yourself.
Okay. So as you pointed out, I'm the interim chief here for the St. Albans Police Department.
Yeah.
I was appointed to that position July 1st of this year.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I had a long career with the Vermont State Police for just over 20 years.
Wow.
During that career, I began in St. Albans at the St. Albans State Police Barracks as a road trooper. I was promoted into the Williston Barracks as a patrol sergeant. Spent 6 years down in that area, working out of the Williston Barracks as well as Lamoille County Outpost. I spent some time in their criminal investigations unit as an arson investigator. And then I finished my career as a commander of the St. Albans Barracks back up in this area. I retired in August of 2019. I took a position with St. Albans Police Department in September of 2019 overseeing the dispatch center. And then things worked out the way they did where I became interim chief of July of this year.
Here you are. Interesting.
During my time in the state police, I was primarily a uniform person other than a couple years I did arson.
Yeah.
My experience has been pretty much everything uniform related in leadership roles, and that's kind of where I excel and what I do best.
But when you mention arson investigator, you bring a state police guy now retired right to mind, John Prentice. Yeah, just in my reporting days, he was probably as good a source as I ever had. John treated me very well, was hardworking. Even came across one fire myself that I called in, but you bring John Prentice right to him. Any idea where he?
I know the name.
I think he headed south. He retired, I think, quite a number of years ago.
I know the name. So state police only carries 5 arson investigators at a time, so there's not many.
Yeah.
So I do know his name, but I never worked with him.
Right. I'm going back. I've been around for a while. In fact, that brings to mind is Tim Bombardier, I think the Barrie chief.
That's correct.
Is he another former arson investigator?
He was a former arson investigator
with VSP.
And he is still the Barrie police chief,
right.
And I believe he oversees the fire department as well.
Interesting. So again, you're interim chief. I guess the one obvious question is St. Albans will presumably find a new permanent chief. Have you got interest in being the permanent chief, possibly at least?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, there hasn't been really, to be honest with you, a lot of talk about that yet. This is still new and fresh, and the chief right now, Gary Taylor was the chief for many years here, did a fantastic job. He's still employed the St. Albans, city of St. Albans. So I guess we'll have to see where when and if that changes and what they do from there.
Right, but you might have some interest in the job.
Yes. I enjoy this position. I think that I could do well in this position, and if the city sees it the same way, then I think I'd be interested.
Interesting. I know there's an outside, is it Municipal Resources, the outside firm that's been reviewing City PD?
That's correct.
Any noteworthy info from your point of view that you've gleaned or the city's gleaned from these folks? Are they still doing their review? Yeah,
so Municipal Resources, MRI.
Yeah.
I can't speak for what the City Council, what the communication is between them regularly. I know that they gave some initial input. From my perspective, I speak to them quite regularly. I'm working with them on policies and procedures right now.
Yeah.
They are a vast resource. They have a ton of experience that I use, utilize, and enjoy. And I use them. We're really trying to get a handle on the policies that were expired, or at least need to be updated within the PD.
Yeah.
We've adopted one up to at this point, but we've got about 15 that are ready for adoption right now, with just some tweaking to be finalized.
Yeah.
The process is a little bit slow, only because policies are 15 to 20 pages long.
Wow.
They send us their recommendations. We write them, send them to them. They send us our recommendations. Then we'll present them to City Hall for the final approval.
Yeah.
So it takes a little time, but they're very experienced in this end.
Right.
MRI is CALIA focused, which is national accreditation. So when these policies are completed and adopted, if the St. Albans PD or City of St. Albans pushes for a CALIA standard, we will be on board for that.
Right. Of course, the backdrop to this nationally, just a difficult time for the country. Just racial unrest, social unrest, even folks, I'm sure, watching just the situation in Burlington, the protests on Battery Park going on, I think maybe the 9th day. So there's just a lot of issues out there. And of course, St. Albans PD has had some of its own issues. There were some excessive force issues that got a lot of attention. So that's being addressed in part, or was it a good time to take a look at kind of policies anyway?
So, first of all, everything, it's kind of multiple parts to that, right?
Sure.
Everything that happens nationally, I don't care if it's the current climate, being the racial issues or drug sales. Everything that happens nationally happens in New England, happens in Vermont, happens in Franklin County.
Yeah.
It's the same with any issue, all issues.
Yeah.
It just might happen at a different scale. So what's happening nationally right now with all of the pressure and the rioting and the protests, it is happening here. It's just at a different scale.
Yeah.
So we have to address that, cope with it, be open to it, see what we can do to have the communication and make the changes that need to happen in a positive way. As a police department, as a community, we are doing that with the oversight committee that's going to be started. The communication's been going on well before I started this position. And it's talked about at city council meetings, and it's going to be happening. It's just a matter of how it looks when it's completed. As far as the history of St. Albans Police Department, yes, there has been some excessive force cases that have come to light way before I got here.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, they came. They were dealt with as far as the officers were terminated or resigned, and in some cases even charged criminally.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change the black mark on the PD.
Right.
All we can do is move forward with it. Part of that is new policies. Many of those policies were redone prior to me coming here. We're just now making them more of a CALIA standard policy.
Right.
Doesn't mean there was many changes, there weren't, but there are some nuances that make them CALIA standard. I think we compared the policies, read them side by side. A lot of people wouldn't see many of the many changes, but there
Right.
are some intricate little changes that help. More of it's timeline as far as reporting, who reports, and how the report process goes.
Right. And you've been on board now for just over two
Yeah,
months.
2 months, that's it, yes.
Probably, well, maybe it seems longer than that, I don't know. And again, we talked off air. My background's reporting many decades and used to the media being totally broad brushed as lousy media, and police unfortunately kind of get the same thing at times. Locally in the St. Albans area, do you feel the public, again, there have been some issues which you just touched on, do you feel the public is still reasonably supportive of police, or you kind of win back some of that support, or how do you see that?
I could be naive here, but I feel
Yeah.
that generally, in this area, people are generally supportive.
Yeah,
There
I
are
get
the
the same
people that
sense.
are a little vocal about their concerns,
Yeah.
and that's absolutely fine. If nobody brings their concerns to us, we can't fix the problem, right? So,
Yeah.
but I do feel exactly what you just said. There are also the people that paint us in the broad brush.
Yeah.
A lot of times, what we see in the news, what we hear in rumor mill,
Yeah.
is only a snippet of what happened.
Right.
Sometimes, unfortunately, that is what happened, and it's bad, and,
Yeah.
and that's the case with every profession.
Yeah.
A lot of times, if you just give it a little bit of time, so you can get all the information, it's not the way it seemed
Yeah.
at the beginning. But I have no problem with somebody coming forward with a complaint. That's what we're here for, and that's what we have a policy for and a procedure for.
Yeah.
But I'd rather people gave it time so we can get to the bottom of it before they make a use this term knee-jerk reaction, because a lot of times that's what a lot of this is based on.
Yeah, I'll get to Brendan momentarily. Just one other question with Brendan next door here. I realize you've been on for 2 months. Again, St. Albans City PD, of course, losing the contract with St. Albans Town. Does that mean much? Again, you're newly on board. Were you disappointed with that, or any reaction to losing that contract with the town?
Yeah, clearly I was disappointed. I don't know what the contract did for the PD in a grand scheme of things, because I wasn't there for it. I do know what it did financially, of course. I do know what it did morale-wise.
And that hurt morale-wise?
Of course it did. But I also look at it as an opportunity to rebuild for what we were originally designed for, which is to cover St. Albans, St. Albans City.
Yeah.
We'll be fine. We'll build the city. We'll build the PD around enforcing laws and being a community policing in the city, and we hope to get the contract back down the road. I mean, it's
Right.
fine. We'll be okay.
And you still have, another 10 months
Yep.
to go here?
And
right?
we'll finalize our time there, doing the
Yeah.
best job we can, and hope that, again, when the contract's up, we can make another run at it.
Yeah, very good. We'll come back to you, Chief. Brendan, welcome. Good to see you. Again, sounds like the big issue in the town, sounds like you're moving forward on the new town hall situation.
Yeah.
So again, we've got to vote on, what, a couple of articles coming up in November?
2. So we're going to vote on whether or not we should acquire a piece of land, about 5.7 acres in the bay, right across Wharf Street from our existing Georgia Shore property where the old town garage stands.
And again, Jackie Brown being the owner.
Yep. So we're looking for $200,000, which is the agreed price there for the 5.7 acres. It's been pre-engineered for a septic design.
Yeah.
Then we're looking for another $200,000 to be able to work this winter with a design team to develop an exact proposal for that property. The thought is if the voters are going to pass one, they're going to pass both. Then we'd come back in March with the big number, which will probably be anywhere between 2.5 and 3.5 million to build a new facility, right around 13,000 square feet. Would be designed to be able to be expanded in the future. But the goal is to build a building that should get us at least 50 years worth of time.
You should be so lucky at St. Albans City Hall now, what, 100 years plus, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, they've done a refurbishment, but they have one thing that we don't have in our current building, which is space.
Yeah.
If we had an extra, 5,000 square feet in that building, we would be looking in a totally different direction.
So it sounds like it was pretty clear. Of course, voters strongly showed their interest, desire to keep town hall in the Bay Area.
Well, that was it. All last year, we've had infrastructure committees since I was on the planning commission. They've looked at 30 different potential locations around town, and we settled up on exit 19, and there was blowback and pushback from that. And then so finally, we were at a board meeting, and we kind of just looked at each other and said, why don't we put an article on in March and take everyone's pulse, and then we'll go from there. And it was resounding. It was 1,500 to 400 roughly.
Wow.
To keep the town hall in the Bay Area. So we looked at it as if we're going to keep a town hall in the Bay Area, we need to do it intelligently and not emotionally.
Yeah.
The emotionally charged decision would be to throw $2 to $2.5 million to make the current town hall up to code, ADA compliant, correct HVAC equipment, an expanded vault, but then you're still stuck with a town hall that's too small for what you have now. We're growing. We're lucky enough that the voters allowed us to build the new Department of Public Works facility on Brigham Road.
Yeah.
We should be able to house a new stormwater utility out of that building. But right there, it's what do you do if we needed to add another person to manage the utility in the existing town hall? Do we add them in the already crowded clerk's office?
Yeah.
Do we, maybe downsize the researching table upstairs to fit a desk in an open area that's a pretty distracting work environment? Or, it just...
So the new building made just a whole lot of sense to you?
It does. No matter where we build it, it's got to be a new building. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't take the existing town hall and do something neat with it. We should either do a private public partnership like the city's done in a few cases and get some grant money to rehab it into some form of housing, or we could turn it into a commercial space, or we could do a community center.
Yeah.
There's endless possibilities, and we're making about between $800,000 and $900,000 a year on the local option tax that can help pay for those possibilities. We just need to get...
Again, will the LO2, will that pay for some of the new building?
All of it.
So all of it?
Yeah, we're looking
So
to...
like the Public Works garage, there shouldn't be any hit on taxpayers?
Not a cent.
Really?
We will go and we'll put down as much cash as we can towards we'll be able to pay cash for the 2 articles in November.
Okay.
The pre-development costs and the land acquisition will be paid for. That'll actually be paid for with 2 quarters worth of local option tax that we've received this year. Then we'll continue to bank cash, and we'll put down as much as we can towards the build package, and then take a tax anticipation note, most likely at a pretty darn low interest rate, for maybe 10 to 15 years, and you'll be looking at probably between $150,000 and $250,000 a year in payments until that's paid off.
Well, that should be great news, one would think, for taxpayers.
We should be able to acquire this land, build this new building, and then still have about $700,000 a year in unappropriated LOT funds left over to build sidewalks, to do water and sewer expansions. This is really the last municipal building need that the town has immediately. I mean, we need to renovate the stone house and do some things in the parks, but that's more of a want than a need. This is a need. Once we get over this hurdle, It'll be, how do we spend this local option tax money in a way to grow the grand list?
Yeah.
And to make life better, instead of what municipal building fire do we need to put out
Yeah.
next?
And what about the old Public Works site? Any more thoughts on what may happen to that site on the lake?
Well, I mean, I've been pitching the idea of a boat launch, but there's a lot of hurdles there.
Have you talked to the state about that? Or would this be a local, a town thing, or would you try to get the state to?
We would need to do a partnership.
Yeah.
We're gonna see what happens. I think the consensus would be, let's see what happens in November with the vote.
Yeah.
You know, our Department of Public Works Director Alan Mashter and our Park Supervisor John Montang pitched me in the morning yesterday, rehabbing the salt shed into an event space, blowing out a back wall, putting a big deck overlooking the lake, and taking the brine room and putting in a prep area, and turning it into a wedding hall. So there's, you know, creative
Really?
juices flowing.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out if we want to tear down the old orange building or put a cheap roof on it and try to keep it standing for the next 10 years to have park equipment in the bay.
Yeah.
You know, there's all kinds of options.
Yeah.
But we
And
did
meanwhile,
do,
at the new Public Works site, new garage, is a salt shed, is that under construction at this point?
not yet. We
Not
just
yet?
signed the contract with Connor Contracting, and we're expecting them to be on site within the next couple of weeks.
Very
So
soon.
we don't know that we'll be able to get pavement down this year, so it looks like we'll be working out of the Georgia Shore salt shed one more year.
Okay.
But
Back to Chief Lamothe, Chief Lamothe. Chief, the pandemic, boy, we're about 6 months into this. Probably seems maybe a whole lot longer to a lot of people. And you've been on board again about 2 months. Public still, what's the story with the police station at this point? Still not open to the public coming into the lobby, or what's going on with that?
That's correct. So
Yeah.
the lobby of the PD is still locked.
Okay.
So the majority of the people that used to come to the lobby prior to it being locked were there to pay parking tickets,
Yeah.
request reports. So we're asking people to pay online, which has been a really good system. It's worked very well.
Yeah.
If people come to the lobby that need to speak to an officer, it's fine. We have a call box outside. They hit the button, it rings inside.
Yeah.
We just have an officer meet with them outside.
Yeah.
It's worked very well. If somebody has to come in for an IT purpose, we do the same thing similar to what you're doing here at your building. We ask the COVID applicable questions, and we take their temperature.
Yeah.
If we have a prisoner that has to come in the building, which does happen,
Yeah.
in the line of work we're in, we do the same thing. We ask them the questions if they're cooperative with it. We do take their temperature regardless. If they don't have to come in the building and we can give them a citation, release them, we'll do that. Or we'll take them down to the correctional center where they have the protocol in place to deal with people
Right.
that may be exhibiting symptoms.
Right. I know we talked off here a little bit. I got to think everybody at St. Albans PD is looking forward to a new headquarters, of
We are.
course, in what's now the current CCV building off South Main Street.
Correct.
And it sounds like we're seeing some movement, or it sounds like the downtown project, the buildings are, I guess, nearing completion.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but that we're on pace to be in
Yeah.
there. COVID set that back as well.
Yeah.
Because the construction was halted on Main Street.
Yeah.
My understanding now is they're very close to being caught up on the original timeline. So CCV can only move during downtime, one of their major breaks, which is either Christmas or summer.
Oh, okay.
My understanding is we're shooting for them to move into it, out of the current CCV building into the new one in the winter Christmas break.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then they vacate their building, we can start our renovations.
And how,
get in there.
and I'm sure I've asked Samir this, how renovation, what are you hearing, how long a renovation process?
I've been told only a couple of months.
Oh, really?
And I mean, I've looked at the plans briefly. I don't see a lot of big
Yeah.
changes other than the Sallyport garage, which is going in.
Yeah.
The majority of the walls are staying pretty much where they are.
Yeah.
The bathroom facilities are staying where they are with the addition of a couple more in the holding areas, so there's not a ton of work going into it, I
Yeah.
don't believe.
Boy, that's got to be something all you folks are really looking forward to, I can only assume.
They are, and having been through that from my time at VSP, going from a really old
Right.
substandard building into a brand-new barracks, it's very
Right.
similar.
Yeah, I remember the old building.
It's a huge benefit logistically, and it's a huge morale
Yeah.
boost. And we're gaining 5 times the space.
Yeah.
So it's it'll be long term. It's the way to go. So it'd be very nice. And again, that also plays into the CLIA down the road. To upfit the current building we're in now for CLIA standards would be financially crushing.
Yeah.
This building, if we decide to go CLIA, which will make some of the modifications now, that'll fit their standards, and down the road it'd be much easier to do it.
Sorry, CLIA being,
So CLIA is a national standard for law enforcement. A lot of big agencies are CLIA certified, which gives you, it's 496 standards that you have to meet to be certified. The only agency, I believe, and I could be off on this, but I believe the only agency in Vermont that's currently CLIA certified is the state police right now. A lot of agencies across the country are CLIA certified. It's just a national standard. Helps with insurance rates. It also helps protect you in court in the aspect that if you met, the thought is you met these certifications, or you met these qualifications to be certified, that must mean that you have some really good policies in place, that you trained your officers to follow these policies. And the understanding is that most people do follow the policies, but it's a major undertaking to get to that level. Most agencies take between 3 and 5 years to get ready for a CLIA standard certification test. I can speak from the state police part of it. When they wanted to become CLIA certified, it was a 3.5, 4 year process, and we had people that were assigned to that process, and that's all they worked on as state police members for 3 to 5. They did nothing but get ready for CLIA. State police was a little different because they had, at the time, 10 barracks to get ready for. But it would take the St. Albans Police Department 18 months to 2 years to get ready. Really? Because it's like 496 particular steps and policies you have to get in place. Right. So it's a major undertaking, but it's good stuff.
Very good. Talking about major undertakings, Brendan, a stormwater utility, if I got the right term, that's something that the town's taking a serious look at?
Well, we have to.
You got no choice.
It's an unfunded mandate from the state to clean up certain watersheds, Rugg and Stephen Brooks. They want us to invest about $5 million over a 20-year period. We've already begun that. We started really heavy last year. We accomplished 2 or 3 projects in the town. And the only way we're going to get this done, this unfunded mandate from state government, is if we figure out a fee for everyone to pay into, including commercial and nonprofit users. And we've got to get staff. You know, we've got to go as far as to hire additional public works people to be able to take care of and help build these projects out. You know, after we build it, we have to maintain it. There's ponds all over the place that need to be either refurbished, redone, or built. There's stormwater permits and probably 70 different residential developments in town that need work. Or they're just not renewed and they're stuck in the state's processing queue. So we had to come up with the most equitable local option to be able to, you know, fund this unfunded mandate. And the best way that our consultants and our planning commission have been able to figure out would be doing what the city's already done and what other municipalities all over the state who also received the MS4 unfunded mandate are already doing, and that's a stormwater utility. And what that is a $65 per residential property fee, and then for commercial users, it's you take your total space, you divide it by 3,500. Your minimum fee is $65. After that, you know, you can have multiple. It's kind of like it's like wastewater, EU. They have a impervious surface calculation based on 3,500 square feet instead of 420 gallons a day, or 450 gallons a day, whatever an EU is. And they do the math based on that, and you pay the fee. The difference versus running it through the general fund and creating a stormwater utility is the utility will stand on its own. It'll have a separate budget. It'll have its own director. We'll have to take a really hard look because it'll need to be tweaked every year until we get it exactly where we want it. And probably
how close to implementation is this? A ways down the road?
No, I mean, we stripped a lot of the. At one point, there was $150,000 a year in stormwater money in the general fund that the taxpayers were paying for every year, and we cut it. You know, we cut it because we realized that it wasn't equitable. But the obligations are still there. And in order to meet, we need to start funding. So I could see it as early as, you know, fiscal year 22.
Right.
You know, we'll have to enact it. Trying to be critical of it, but the mission's there. I mean, talk to anybody who likes to frequent the bay, yourself included.
Absolutely.
The parks never look nicer. Kilcare's in great shape. The water's terrible. We've got a...
Yeah, I ran into Kilcare, because Kilcare's my main swimming place around here, and maybe 3-4 weeks ago, for the first time in my memory, the Kilcare beach was closed.
It's not good.
Yeah.
So we've got to do our part locally. The state, instead of trying to find money in their $6 billion budget, has deferred it to towns.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to figure it out, and it's not gonna be fun. You don't ever like imposing a $65 a year increase on anybody.
Yeah.
You know, it's not why we run for these positions, to go raise everybody's cost of living by $5 a month. It's
Yeah.
not something we take pleasure in, but,
Yeah.
you know, if we wanna leave the bay in a better shape than we found it, we've gotta start doing something.
Yeah. Chief, we touched on just kind of the pandemic influence, but I know traffic accidents, people laying low some months ago, so they were down, but things on kind of traffic accident-wise, kind of getting back to a normal level at this point?
Yeah, so like we talked about outside, when the pandemic first started in March, our call volume reduced. We were worried that was
Yeah.
going to increase with the stress, people being home, internal issues at home causing calls, but it was actually the opposite. Our call volume went down. I think large part of that was a decrease in motor vehicle traffic. I
Yeah.
mean, people were just generally commenting on it, the roads were bare, right? We're starting to see the opposite now. The traffic has increased, which brings all types of different calls, crashes being one of them. So it is what it is. School's opening back up next week, so that'll increase even more. I wouldn't say our call volume's through the roof by any stretch. I would just say that it's going to come back to where it normally is this time of year.
All right.
But crashes, I would encourage people to be more patient than ever, because I'm anticipating school bus routes to be even slower, because they have to, I'm assuming, and then this is a school decision, I'm assuming they're going to test
Yeah.
kids as they step on the bus,
Wow.
which is going to slow down the process.
All right, but speaking of school opening, SROs, school resource officers, have been in the news. Some
Yep,
people
a
saying,
lot.
hey, get rid of them, they're not. What about at city school? Will there be an SRO at city school again this year?
Yes, so we have a contract with Maple Run, which is the city school, the town
Yeah.
school, and BFA, and the school resource officers are going to be back in the schools this
Yeah.
year.
You think these are good positions to fund, I assume?
Personally, I do.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of benefit to it. I know there's a lot of opposition to it.
Yeah.
If the school, Maple Run, opted not to have them, we wouldn't do it. They've opted
Yeah.
to have them, so we are supplying the positions.
Yeah. Of course, our Sheriff Roger Langevin, the former SRO at the St. Albans Town School.
Yep,
Anyway, so the SRO will be back.
they will. Yep,
Boy, that's
they're
gonna-
being trained for the last 2 weeks. Our 3 have been in training for all of last week and this week, and they will be in there starting next week.
Yeah. We're down to, boy, a couple minutes. Any other thing you want to quickly throw at us that we haven't touched on?
No, I just encourage people, again, this is a tense time across the country.
Yeah.
I would encourage people to take a breath. If they have an issue with our particular PD,
Yeah.
not nationwide PD, but our particular PD, come see
Yeah.
us and we can talk about it. But to reflect on everything that's going across the country and take those feelings out on the local PD is tough. We can't fix the nation. We can fix our PD.
Yeah. And again, easy enough. If someone calls City PD, they will get somebody.
They will get somebody.
Hearing kind of horror stories about the Burlington situation, slashing the funding. Hey, maybe don't call in the middle of the night because nobody might answer the phone. That's not a concern here. Someone
Right.
will answer the phone.
Someone will answer the phone. That's
good.
correct.
Brendan, down to about a minute. Anything you want to quickly throw at us here?
Well, we're looking to launch a T-shirt sale. It's coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're partnering with Main Street Graphics to do some town logoed shirts. You know, we're going to do that as a fundraiser to raise money for the parks.
Yeah.
So look for that online and in the town hall. Other than that, you know.
What
we're
about
just-
town meeting? I mean, your meetings now are open to the public, or what's this?
No, so we're still doing public and via Zoom. But
You
that
had one
might
meeting at
change.
what, at the St. Albans Museum?
We had one, and it was only attended by one messenger
Really?
reporter. So the consensus was, let's go back to the town hall for now, and then
Yeah.
maybe do a better job of advertising where we're meeting and that it's open
Yeah.
to the public for some town hall forums. I'm going to begin working with some community partners in the area that have event space large enough to host a public forum of maybe 40 to 50 people
Yeah.
in the coming weeks, and we're going to try to have some meetings about the town hall. We're going to have town hall style meetings about the town hall project.
So public will have plenty of opportunities to weigh in.
Absolutely. I mean, we
Right.
wouldn't ask them to approve a $400,000
Sure.
combination of expenditures without giving us the opportunity to hear from them.
Very good. Time for us to go. Brendan Deso, the Select Board Chairman in St. Albans Town, thanks. Hope to see you in 2 weeks. And many thanks to St. Albans' Interim Police Chief, Maurice Lamothe. Good to see you, Chief. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.